Hey everyone, my name is Paul Fink, and I'm a postdoctoral research associate at the University of Maine's Vemi Lab. And my research at a high level explores inclusive navigation technology for people with disabilities and underserved transportation demographics in general. Today, we're going to be talking about X-ray vision and new augmented reality technology that can serve as a compensatory augmentation for a host of problems for people, but specifically here, focusing on mitigating cognitive map decay for older adults. So let's dig right in. Cognitive maps are critical. They're really essential to wayfinding and spatial understanding. There are mental representations that allow us to navigate by remembering routes, landmarks, and the relations between them. The problem that this research specifically is addressing is that for many older adults, cognitive maps are difficult to form in the brain and to remember over time, which introduces serious challenges for independence and mobility. We argue that this difficulty in forming cognitive maps and remembering cognitive maps is one of the contributing reasons to the fact that older adults travel so much less than their younger adult counterparts. Moreover, although we understand the fact that cognitive maps degrade over time for older adults, it's not well understood currently in the research how they degrade and to what extent. So there are no cognitive map decay functions that have been extensively validated in the research. So that was a secondary goal of this project. So really, we approached the project wondering how cognitive maps degrade over time and how new technology could help us mitigate that decay. We were inspired in this research by two emerging projects from MIT that have explored so-called X-ray vision technology that allow users to see objects that would otherwise be occluded in the environment. In this first example, the researchers are using RFID tags in boxes to allow users to see what objects are in those boxes without actually having to open them. And this is exciting to us because we know that an important part of cognitive map formation is learning landmarks and in the environment and the relation between them. So if we could somehow come up with a new way to give participants and give people access to landmarks in the environment, we assume that then we can improve cognitive map formation. So we thought, what if we designed an X-ray vision augmentation to allow users to see through walls in an indoor environment, kind of like this second project here from MIT. That way we could give users greater visual access to landmarks in the environment that they couldn't otherwise see without the X-ray augmentation that we designed. So ultimately, we were curious if enhanced landmark learning afforded by a single session with an X-ray vision augmentation could improve cognitive map formation and retention over time in older adults. And if so, what the benefits of that technology would be for this population in terms of independence and navigation. So the study designed for the research simulated the X-ray vision augmentations using a simple virtual reality environment that we implemented on a desktop implementation. The user's task in the user study was to navigate and fully learn this indoor environment on a single level and each of the landmarks contained within it. So in this case, it was a classroom, an office, a restroom, and a closet, as represented on the layout diagram on the slide. When the augmentation was on, when the X-ray augmentation was on, the walls were removed, meaning that participants could see all of the different landmarks. They were always visible because the walls weren't occluding them. When the augmentation was off, participants could only see the landmarks when they were in the correct hallway or directly in front of the door to the room that was serving as the landmark. So in our study, we had three user groups. An older adult experimental group who had access to the X-ray augmentation. They could press a button on the keyboard to remove the walls, essentially. There was also an age-matched control group of older adults who did not have access to the augmentation when they were learning the environment. There was also a separate younger adult control group who also did not have access to the augmentation. We were interested in testing how cognitive maps differed between the two older adult groups, as well as between the augmented older adults and the younger adult control group. This was because we're really interested to see if we could form cognitive maps and retain cognitive maps using the augmentation with older adults to the same extent as the younger adult control group. So since we were interested in cognitive maps over time, the study was semi-longitudinal in nature. Participants completed tests both in the lab and then at home. And in the in-lab portion, participants learned the environment layout to criterion and then completed two tasks: a map recreation task where they drew the layout and labeled the landmarks on a grid, and an egocentric pointing task where they were asked to imagine standing in the start location and draw lines to each of the landmarks. Both of these tasks, the egocentric pointing task and the allocentric map recreation task, have been extensively validated in related research for measuring accurate cognitive maps. After the in-lab portion, participants took experimental worksheets home and were asked to complete the same tasks 1 day, 1 week, and 2 weeks after, and mailed the packets back to us in the lab. We received all of the packets on time, and participants self-reported that they completed them at the requested time intervals. So for results, first we will get into the map recreation. And here we compared participant drawn maps to the correct maps, the ground truth maps, and we measured distortion. So here, greater map distortion means less accuracy. It means a less accurate cognitive map, essentially. So when looking at all the time points together, ANOVA results revealed significantly more error among the older adult control group than the other older adults who had access to the augmentation, as well as with the younger adults. And of note, there was no significant difference between the older adults who had access to the augmentation and the younger adult control. We also looked at error between the older adult groups at each time interval. And importantly, the non-aided group demonstrated significantly worse performance than the group with the X-ray augmentation at the 1-day interval, which was the time period most susceptible to cognitive map decay. So taken together, these results are strong evidence that the augmentation improved cognitive map performance overall, as well as at this 1-day interval, which is most susceptible to cognitive map decay. And cognitive maps were improved perhaps to equivalence with the younger adults as well. So if you remember, a secondary goal of this research was to characterize cognitive map decay over time. So a best fit curve estimation demonstrated a significant logarithmic trend for the older adult control group across time intervals. So we interpret the lack of a significant trend, logarithmic, linear, or otherwise, for the augmented group and for the younger adult control group, as further support that the augmentation mitigated cognitive map decay. It could not be the decay functions for those groups could not be characterized by this logarithmic trend or really any trend that we looked at, meaning that the decay was more significant and more predictable for the older adults who did not have access to our augmentation. So much like the map recreation results, the egocentric pointing results as a whole demonstrated significant differences between the older adult control group and both the X-ray and younger adult control groups. When specifically comparing the two older adult groups at each time interval, there were significant differences at each post-lab time interval. So again, the best fit curve estimation demonstrated a significant logarithmic decay trend for the older adult control, but not for the other two groups. So just to summarize some contributions here. This was the first known work to investigate how X-ray AR can one day serve as a compensatory augmentation for older adult navigation. Our results provided strong support that increased landmark learning can reduce or even eliminate cognitive map decay in older adults, perhaps to equivalence with their younger adult counterparts. We were also able to characterize how unaided older adult cognitive maps decay over time, which can be useful for any researcher interested in promoting environmental learning with this group. All in all, we think that our research really shows that with appropriate augmentations that improve access to landmark learning, cognitive maps can be formed more accurately and be retained more accurately among older adults, which has implications for navigation, independence, and mobility going forward. I would like to thank all of our participants that participated in this research. And if you'd like to reach out with questions, we'd be happy to touch base. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.